Let me tell you about my old job as an overnight security guard for a small warehouse. It wasn't ideal, but it paid incredibly well. The place itself wasn't huge, but it stored expensive tech gear, so 24/7 surveillance was a must. My nights were usually dead quiet, just me, the camera feeds, and the occasional walk around. But this one night was different. A heavy storm was raging outside, with rain hammering the roof and thunder shaking the windows. Honestly, I felt more relaxed, thinking nobody would be crazy enough to go out in that weather. After the day shift left at 10:30, I settled in. About 2 hours later, a soft beep echoed from the security room. A latch sensor on the back door had been triggered. I pulled up the live feed, nothing. Thinking it was a glitch from the storm, I went to check it myself. I opened the door to an empty, rain-soaked alley. No one. I shut and locked it, but protocol meant I had to file a report. Back in the office, just as I started the paperwork, a massive thud echoed through the entire building. My heart jumped into my throat. I crept into the hallway, listening, but heard only the rain. I moved cautiously toward the front of the warehouse, and that's when I noticed the sound of rain getting louder. I turned the corner and froze. The front door was wide open, a pool of rainwater glistening on the floor just inside. Someone was in here with me. I sprinted back to the security room, locked myself in, and hit the emergency button. As I waited for the police, I heard more thuds moving through the building. When the officers arrived, they found a man hiding in the storage area, clutching a hammer. As they led him out in cuffs, he locked eyes with me with a cold, horrifying stare. Police later said he was heavily intoxicated on multiple drugs and gave no reason for being there. What was he planning to do with that hammer? I have no idea, but I know that if that sensor hadn't gone off, if I hadn't been on alert, the outcome could have been very different. I don't work nights anymore, but every time it rains, that feeling of sheer dread comes rushing right back. As a local police officer, I was used to strange shifts, but this 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. stretch would change everything. We got a call about teens trespassing at the old, abandoned hospital on the outskirts of town, a common spot for trouble. This was my 4th visit, and I expected the usual. Scare some kids off and go home. But when I arrived, I saw a flashlight beam darting frantically across the second-story windows, like someone was running for their life. The second I entered that decaying building, the air felt wrong. It was dead silent after I called out. My hand went to my holster. As I reached the top of the stairs, a loud thud like a body hitting a wall echoed down the hallway. I cleared room after room, finding only graffiti and old beds. The last room's door was closed, pushed it open, empty. But on the floor, cigarettes were still smoldering. They'd just been here. Before I could process it, the door behind me slammed shut, something heavy smashed against it, and I heard footsteps sprinting away. I fought my way out to find a hospital bed barricading the door. Whoever was here was gone. Backup found no one. The strange part, the original caller reported 2 teens, but I only heard one set of footsteps. That morning, we got 2 missing persons reports for 2 teenage boys. 6 years later, they've never been found. Was the person in that hallway one of the missing kids? Or was it someone else entirely? We may never know, and that unanswered question is what haunts me most. Working the lonely 11 to 7 shift at a gas station on a freezing, snowy night was brutal. Around midnight, an old SUV pulled up to a pump and just stayed. For 10 minutes, no movement, no lights. In that cold, no one could survive in a dead car. Concerned, I went out to check. The car was empty. As I hurried back inside, freezing, I noticed a single set of footprints in the snow leading around the side of the building, not to the front door. A chill that wasn't from the cold shot down my spine. Back inside, I'd barely warmed my hands when a heavy thump came from the back. I found puddles of melted snow on the floor. I followed them to the supply room, turned the corner, and there he was. A tall, broad-shouldered man with a scruffy beard, standing in the dark, staring right at me. My brain short-circuited. I just walked backwards to the counter, picked up the phone, and whispered for help to the police. The next 10 minutes, waiting in silence, not hearing a single sound from where he stood, were pure torture. When the police arrived, they found the supply room empty. Watery footprints led out the back door and into a vast, dark, frozen field that stretched for miles. They never found him. The SUV had no traceable owner. Who was he? What did he want, hiding in that room, just watching me? In that cold, he should have frozen out there, but he vanished, leaving behind a mystery as deep and dark as that snowy field. My first job at 16 was delivering pizza, and most nights were forgettable. Until one Friday right before closing. The GPS took me to a weird, sparse neighborhood and finally pointed me to a park. Not a house, a park. I saw a man sitting alone on a bench in the dark, waving. As I walked over, he was talking to himself, repeating, "I'm okay. Everything's going to be okay." When I got close, I looked in his eyes and saw pure, unadulterated terror. A surge of adrenaline hit me, and I turned around to find a tall man in a cloth mask pointing a knife at my face. He screamed at us to empty our pockets, then forced us both off the path and into the woods. He didn't care about our wallets. He wanted us. After a few minutes, the man from the bench suddenly shoved me to the ground and took off running. The masked man instantly chased after him, leaving me alone. I ran for my life. Police found our belongings scattered on the path, but both men were gone. I've thought about it every day since. Why did the other victim push me down? Probably to use me as a distraction to escape. I don't blame him, but it was a cold move. And the scariest part? The abductor showed zero interest in our money. That means his intentions were something far, far worse. In a horrible twist, that man's selfish act is what both put me in that situation and ultimately saved me from whatever nightmare was supposed to happen next. I was delivering a late-night pizza around 2 a.m. on a secluded forest road when my old car began to choke and die. I coasted to the shoulder, stranded in thick fog. As I got out to look, I saw a figure standing far down the road, just watching me from the mist. I called a friend for a ride and waited, anxiety growing with every second. The fog thickened. Then, I heard footsteps approaching from the woods. A man walked right up to my car, smiled, and knocked. I told him I couldn't roll the window down. He said nothing, just casually tried the door handle, then walked to my trunk. In the mirror, I saw him fumbling with something in his hands. Just then, my friend's headlights cut through the fog. The man watched the car pull up, then bolted into the forest. My friend had seen it too. The man was holding a gun. We later found my car had been looted. The gas gauge was stuck. I'd been running on empty. But the man? He was never found. What was he doing out there on that empty road? He obviously planned to rob the car. But what was he going to do to me while I was still inside? All I know for certain is this. If my friend's headlights hadn't appeared in that exact moment, cutting through that fog, I am convinced I would have vanished without a trace. During the lockdowns, I was a delivery driver working overtime. One night, a massive order for 4 large pizzas came in for a house 30 minutes out of town. The GPS led me down a long driveway that ended in the woods. In the trees, I could see the glow of a bonfire and hear voices. The figure waved me over. I figured it was just a party, so I grabbed the pizzas and walked into the forest. When I reached the clearing, about half a dozen people were just standing around the fire. No drinks, no music, no happiness. An eerie silence fell over them as I approached. A man took the pizzas and handed them off. Before I could ask for payment, more people emerged from the trees, dozens of them all just staring at me, not saying a word. The vibe was so wrong it had me physically shaking. I turned and walked back to my car. As I reached the tree line, I saw 2 figures sprint away from behind my vehicle into the woods. I didn't check for damage. I just got in and sped away. My manager called the number from the order, but they never answered. Police went to investigate less than an hour later. All they found was the bonfire, still burning, completely unattended. Where did that entire group of people go? And what was that really about? The whole scene vanished into the night, and the truth of what was happening in those woods is a mystery that will likely never be solved. As the overnight lead at a small retail store, my shifts were usually peaceful. This night, I was alone, stocking shelves, lost in thought. A loud knock at the locked front door made me jump. A man in a hood stood outside. I yelled through the glass that we were closed. He just stared, then walked away. I went back to work, forgetting about him. After my break, around 2 a.m., I walked back onto the sales floor and froze. A man was walking past the other end of the aisle. He hadn't seen me. I hid as his footsteps moved toward the break room I just left. Then I heard him start to sprint. He was running right at me. I bolted for the front doors, fumbling with my keys, my hands shaking violently. Just as I shoved the door open and stumbled outside, I saw a bright flash from the corner of my eye and heard a deafening pop that rang in my ears. A gunshot. I didn't look back. I ran to my car and hid, calling 911. Police found the back door pried open and a bullet hole in the wall beside the front entrance. The man was gone. They believed he was having a psychotic break, and I was just the only target he could find. For years after, every little noise on my shift sent my heart into overdrive. He wasn't there to rob the store. That night, he was there for me. Working my boring overnight cybersecurity job from home, I ordered Taco Bell at 2:40 a.m. to stay awake. It was pouring rain, and I immediately felt guilty for making a driver come out. I watched their icon on the app get to my neighborhood, and then stop around the corner. For 5 minutes, they didn't move. I called. They rejected it. I called again. This time they answered, but all I heard was the crackling of heavy rain before they hung up. The app now showed them right outside my house. My gut screamed that something was wrong. I locked the door just as a loud, frantic knock shook it. Through the peephole, I saw a man in a gray hoodie pacing on my porch, his head on a swivel. "Uber Eats delivery," he yelled, but he had no food bag. I stayed silent. He got more agitated, then pressed himself against the door. I heard dull scrapes on the wood before he ran off into the rain. Police confirmed it was a scam account. Days later, I found a small, hidden X scratched into my door like a marker. I painted over it, but the feeling remains. He wasn't there to deliver food. He had a sharp object, and he was waiting for me to open that door. During a stormy overnight shift as a retail manager, I heard a loud thud from the delivery bay. I checked just wind and rain. An hour later, on my way back from break, a deep silence fell over the store. That's when I saw them. A line of fresh, wet shoe prints leading right past my cart. My blood ran cold. I followed them to find a chaotic maze of prints all over the front of the store. Someone had been walking around while I was in the break room. I ran to the office, locked myself in, and called 911. 10 minutes later, the operator said police were outside. I opened the office door and saw a new set of wet prints leading right up to it. He had been standing right here waiting for me. Security footage showed a man who had slipped in through an unlocked side door. He didn't steal a thing. He just wandered the aisles, watching me from a distance, waiting for his moment. The most chilling frame? Him standing outside the locked office door, staring at the handle, just minutes before police arrived. He left without a trace. He wasn't a thief. He was just visiting, and I have no idea why. On a cold, snowy night doing food delivery, I reluctantly accepted a late order that took me to an isolated house deep in the woods. The driveway was long, the house old and covered in snow. As I set the bag down on the porch, the door flew open. A large, pale man in a winter jacket stood there. "You can set it down right over there," he said, pointing inside. Everything in me said, "Do not go in there." "Sorry, I have to go," I said, holding the bag out. His face darkened, and he slammed the door in my face. I left the bag and hurried back to my car. As I passed the front yard, I heard a noise from the side of the house. I looked back just in time to see the man coming around the corner, walking quickly toward my car with something in his hands it looked like rope. Pure adrenaline took over. I threw my car in reverse, struggling for traction in the snow. He kept coming, getting within a few feet before my tires finally gripped and I sped backwards down the driveway. In my rear view, I saw him stop and just watch me disappear into the dark. I never found out what he wanted, what that rope was for, or what would have happened if I'd stepped inside. Now, I don't even knock. I drop the food and leave. That decision, that refusal to step over the threshold, might be the only reason I'm here to tell the story.